Good morning and welcome. It is May 21st, 2026, and you are tuning in to the early morning edition of the Stylo News Intelligence Update. Today's explainer takes us directly to the Mediterranean Sea region. We'll be breaking down NATO pressure, migration routes, and strategic instability. We're going to look at the facts on the ground calmly and objectively, navigating the security and environmental factors shaping this absolutely vital corridor.
Before we dive in, a quick note that this morning's explainer is sponsored by ProWave AI. They are the developers behind Stylo Intel Ops. That's the AI-powered open-source intelligence program trusted by defense professionals. They also power Stylo News, which is our commercial platform bringing you on-demand news right to your web and mobile apps.
All right, let's look at the bottom line up front. When we look at the Mediterranean theater, we aren't just seeing a random collection of isolated incidents. No. It's a deeply interconnected web of security dynamics. We're talking about a continuous chain of events stretching all the way from the North African Sahel, up through Libya, straight across the basin, and right into the southern flanks of Europe. To really grasp the current situation, we have to understand how these regions are constantly pushing and pulling on one another.
There are four primary patterns currently reshaping this landscape. First up, we're seeing sustained pressure on NATO's southern flanks stemming from hybrid threats. Next, there's the ongoing risk of maritime escalation in the Strait of Hormuz and the potential for that to spill over. Third, we're tracking the expansion of ISIS and al-Qaeda networks moving from the Sahel right into that southern Libyan nexus. And lastly, the geopolitical and maritime friction between Turkey and Greece continues to be a major factor. We'll review these facts neutrally so we can clearly see the strategic board. Now, all of these compounding events trigger what is essentially a massive ripple effect across three distinct levels. On the local level, it's about severe weather vulnerability. We're seeing coastal areas increasingly disrupted by metacanes. Moving up to the national level, fragmented state control leads to intense border and security strain, largely visible through migration bottlenecks. And on the international stage, this tests geopolitical cohesion, putting serious strains on NATO unity and introducing new risks to global energy shipping. Let's put a number to this, 550,000. According to our latest intelligence estimates, that is the number of migrants currently stranded in Libya awaiting passage to Europe. To put that into perspective, that figure starkly illustrates the sheer scale of the fallout from fragmented state control and collapsed security institutions. It's a severe humanitarian bottleneck, and it places direct, daily pressure on European border policies and maritime rescue operations. Adding a highly volatile layer to all of this is the local environmental impact. The Mediterranean is facing a growing threat from severe, tropical-like cyclones. We call them metacanes. With sea temperatures rising roughly 0.4 degrees Celsius per decade, these intensifying storms are doing a lot more than just threatening coastal populations. They're actually severely disrupting both national security patrols and the vital humanitarian operations that are out there trying to manage the ongoing migration crisis. Turning our attention back to the geopolitical friction, we're observing some strongly competing maritime perspectives in the Eastern Mediterranean. On one side, you have Turkey, which is working to formalize its blue homeland doctrine in international law. This is a move to assert expansive maritime claims and influence across critical routes. On the other side, Greece views these actions as a direct challenge. In response, Athens is reinforcing its defense posture, pursuing tighter military cooperation with France and aggressively utilizing diplomatic channels to protect its exclusive economic zones. It's a complex, high-stakes standoff for sure. And right in the middle of these regional tensions, the major global players are actively maneuvering. The United States is currently recalibrating its footprint, using its position to press allies on NATO burden sharing. Russia, meanwhile, is taking a very different route, working to build a continuous security arc stretching from Libya all the way down into Central Africa. As for the European Union, they're heavily advocating for diplomacy and strategic European autonomy. And the United Nations? They remain strictly focused on mediating peaceful conflict resolution on the ground in Libya. To get the full picture, we really have to look at the information space. When we analyze social media sentiment, we find a highly critical public lens looking back at historical actions. A very prominent narrative online expresses deep regret over the long-term consequences of the 2011 NATO operation in Libya. People are frequently linking past Western policy failures directly to the current migration fallout. They frame it as a self-inflicted vulnerability that essentially enabled uncontrolled movement out of North Africa. Broadening our view of that social sentiment, we're seeing an engaged but quite measured public. The reactions are largely neutral to positive when it comes to Italy's defensive coordination and logistics. We're also seeing cautious optimism regarding recent Italy-Algeria defense agreements. But make no mistake, there is significant underlying concern over these unresolved conflicts and the potential for North African instability to spill over. Interestingly, though, the public is heavily rejecting alarmism. They are clearly favoring transparency and cooperation over escalating rhetoric. So, having laid out the facts and the public sentiment, we need to pivot our focus to the strategic outlook. The big question now is, what impending events should analysts be watching for next? Our strategic watch list highlights a few key developments. In late May of 2026, we're expecting the completion of a Greek technical analysis of encrypted drone data. That's crucial because it could trigger some formal diplomatic actions. Looking toward mid-2026, Brussels may initiate a broad review of their maritime security policies. And moving into mid to late 2026, keep an eye out for formal international investigations into the use of force on rescue vessels. That last point could fundamentally alter maritime safety protocols going forward. Ultimately, the defining question moving forward is this: can diplomatic mediation actually outpace regional militarization and environmental strain? Thank you for joining us for this morning's explainer. Now, this briefing is just a short lead-in to our broader analysis. For a comprehensive deep dive into the last 2 weeks of events in this region, make sure to listen to the full Stylo News Intel update podcast on your favorite channel, or just follow the link attached to this post. And of course, you can always subscribe at stylonews.com for AI-powered news on demand. I am your host, thanking you for your time. Stay informed and have a good day.